This lesson video is hopefully going to help you navigate Google Classroom and become more efficient in using it to your benefit. So the first thing that we're going to do is if you click on, you can go to the waffles here and you can go to Google Classroom, or you could just type in the address right here. But we'll just go ahead and go to Classroom here. And when you log in, you can either join a class by clicking the plus and maybe the teacher gave you a code, or maybe your teacher invited you and you can just click join right here. So once you're here, if you click on the home screen, all of your classes will show up here. That's first to know. If I have more than one class, more than one teacher, this is where your classes are. If you still have classes showing up that you were in last year or the year before, you could always unenroll out of those. Be very careful with that you don't do it if it's a current class, because then you're going to lose all of your assignments and what you've already turned in. Before I get into your actual classrooms and what you can do there, I want to show you some tools that are available to you right here on the homepage that you could definitely utilize. One of them is your to-do. So if you click on to-do, you can see all of your assignments that are upcoming, that are missing. So I don't have any that are upcoming. My teacher hasn't posted anything. But then I can see all of my assignments here, everything that I haven't turned in, and what their due dates were. And then I can go straight to them from that page. If I click back on to do, I could also see what I've turned in, and I haven't turned anything in this. But if I did, like, let's say this lesson right here, and I marked that as done, if I go back to my to-do, I'm going to see my missing, but then I'm also going to see my done assignments in any list, whether they were due earlier or whether they don't have a due date. Like everything I've turned in right here, everything that I have missing here, and then my upcoming newly assigned assignments right here. So to-do is really going to help you organize what you have to get done. So if you see something in here, especially in the missing, this is where you're going to look. If you don't clear this out though and mark these things as done, it gets a little overwhelming. So one of the first things that you could do to help yourself is when you have an assignment and it is finished, even if you don't have to turn it into Google Classroom, mark it as done so you can clear it out. And when you open up your to-do, you're not going to have a bunch of missing things and have to be able to try to find it. So to-do is a really big tool for you. The other really big tool for you over here, if you don't like the list view, is calendar. Especially if you're really busy and you need to know what some upcoming assignments are, you can look through your calendar and see what assignments are due and when, and all of your classes will show up here in one calendar view, so you know like what homework you have to get done that night or what's coming up and what you want to get done by the end of the week. The last thing over here in the tools that I think is really important would be your settings. I often see a lot of students getting overwhelmed with their email notifications and sometimes even reporting them as spam, but this is where you can change those settings. So if you don't want an email every single time an assignment is posted, you can just turn everything off. Or if you want just specific things, so like if you want maybe anytime you get a comment on one of your posts, you do want an email notification for that, or something that messaged you, or if maybe your teacher private comments you on an assignment, you definitely want an email for that. You can turn off any or on any notifications, or you could turn off specific classes. So maybe I don't want anything for math, my teacher, I can just check that, or maybe you do want it on. So this is where you change your settings in your emails. So if you're getting overwhelmed with too many emails, this is where you can turn them on and off. Especially like return work or work and post from your teachers, that can be on or off. So if you know you're checking Google Classroom daily and you don't need that email notification, just turn them off. But if you know that you get a little bit behind and you need that reminder, turn it on. and then you'll get an email for, like, say on this one, due date reminders for your work. My personality is usually all of my settings. I turn off my classroom notifications because I am so often in Google Classroom and I don't need one more spot for it. But if you need that reminder and you are a very big email checker, this would be where you'd want them on. So that's kind of like the tools here available to you in Classroom, just in your home. So you have your to-do, you have calendar, and settings. Those are all really helpful to you when you're using Google Classroom. Okay, from this home screen, actually, I went back and added an assignment here so you could see that even if I have an assignment, this is another spot. There's so many spots where you're going to be able to click on your assignment and see upcoming assignments. So all of your classes here should show upcoming assignments here too. And you can click on them and go right back into that assignment. So when you're in this class, you can go ahead and hop on in to whatever class you want. And there's a few different things to see here. I can still, over here on the left, get to any of those settings or to-do that I talked to you about earlier. You can also go to your classwork or other people, but for now we're just gonna stick with the stream. This is the spot where your teacher should be posting announcements, any sort of like login information. It's in a timeline order, so it's not in like a very organized manner. Like if your teacher has different units, it's not going to be organized like that. This is just going to be strictly posted here according to the timeline with the most recent things posted at the top. But if there are announcements, this is where you're going to see them. And then also right here, you're going to see your assignments again that are upcoming, and you'll be able to click on them and directly go to that assignment if you want to. Some teachers have allowed comments. I did not on this class. You can see if I try to click on it, you wouldn't be allowed to. But do know that your comments and your posts are never anonymous if they do have it turned on. And if you do use that inappropriately, not actually asking a question about, like, on Thursday, what do we need to bring to class or something like that, then you can be held to consequences. So make sure that you only type appropriate, necessary comments and questions in there if your teacher has allowed that, so that way you don't get in trouble there. You can also, within your classes, go to a calendar. It'll actually open up Google Calendar with everything else that you have going on, and then the assignments. So, oh my goodness. So this is another spot where you can keep yourself organized and see what assignments you have going on. So I'm going to click back into Google Classroom. I'm in my stream right here, and I can scroll through and look at everything that has been posted and announcements that my teacher has made, and or quickly get to my upcoming assignments. If I go back over here to do, that's still just going to include all of my classes unless I choose just the one class I'm looking for. So my to-do is still going to give me all of my assigned things, my missing things, and my done things. So go ahead and click back. I'm going to click back home and back into my class, and we'll move on to classwork. Okay, so I'm clicked over here now from the stream to classwork, and this is where your assignments are posted if your teacher assigned them as classwork. And there's a few different things to look at in Classroom. Number one, again, if you want to look at kind of your to-do, it's not the overall to-do, but to-do for this class, what has been assigned, what you still have to do, and this is in a timeline order. So if you wanted to do the very first thing, you could go to the bottom. Or you could just look at like what you have returned, what you have missing. Return just means the teacher returned it to you, hopefully graded. If it's not graded, maybe she wrote some comments on it. So back in classwork, we use the to-do. Also, as I talked about, these are topics. And if you get a little distracted by too many topics and all this and you don't know what to look at, but you know that the assignment was for the last unit, algebraic expressions, you could just find that unit or that topic here, or you know what week it was assigned, because a lot of teachers do assign on a week by week basis. Find that topic or that week heading, and when you open that, that's what will narrow down your classwork to just that. So you're not going to have to worry about seeing all the other distractions of everything. The last thing to look at in classwork here is that you can actually, I was looking and seeing what that is, just clapping the link. You can actually see what has been turned in and what hasn't from this view. If it's grayed out, it's been turned in, you're done with it. If it is still colored, that means you still have not finished it. So the grayed out ones I did, the colored ones I did not do yet. Okay, let's go ahead and open up a couple of assignments and see what you're going to see and how to go ahead and either turn them in or do what you need to do with them. So if you notice when I click on each of these, it will expand the instructions for you. So you can see what you have to do and any links your teacher gave you. But make sure you open it all the way up, click on view instructions so that way you can see the whole assignment. When you open this, you're gonna notice that your teacher wrote some instructions here. There's a comment here if your teacher allows it. Again, I turned it off on all of mine, but keep in mind, everyone can see that. That's a class comment. It's not going directly to the teacher. This is where if you wanted to add a private comment to your teacher, you would add it here and then go ahead and send it. And your teacher hopefully will give you instructions on whether you should add private comments there or just email them. I know I often don't check private comments unless I'm grading the assignment. So if you want to write something about like, I did the first part but struggled on the second part or whatever, I'll see it when you turn it in, but I don't generally go in and check for private comments on each of my assignments. And as I told you earlier, I turn off all my email notifications to not bog down my email with a bunch of Google Classroom notifications. So in here, your teacher may give you links. They may attach a worksheet for you to do. They might give you like a Google Docs that you could do. If they give it to you over here and it's not like in your assignments, instead of requesting edit access, just click up on file and then make a copy. Then you can edit, do whatever you need to, and then you could attach it back to that assignment if needed. And then right here is where you're going to add or create. So if you have a file or any Google app that you created something in, if you took a screenshot, this is where you would add that file. If you have a link that you have to add, so this is where you're going to add whatever you need to turn into your assignment, or maybe you don't have to turn in anything at all. This one I said if they were in class, they can just go ahead and mark this as done, and if they have notes, I want them to show them to me in person. So really, all they have to do when they're finished with this one is mark it as done. So your instructions will be on here from your teacher of what to do to be able to turn this in. But do know that if you don't mark it as done, it's not done. So this is kind of like your final step to turning that in. Even if it's for another class that uses a link in, say, your science program, you finished it in there, you turned it in there, come back to Google Classroom and make sure and mark it as done. That's going to send that notification to the teacher that you are fully comfortable with it and done. Let's look at a different type of assignment that already has something attached for you. Sometimes you're going to get an assignment like this one right here where your teacher already attached it. Remember I said if it's over here, you're going to have to make a copy. If you have something over here, you can complete your assignment here. And then again, though, after you complete it all, you're going to have to come back to this. And don't forget to mark it as done. Even if you finish that, Google doesn't know that you are done with it until you've actually clicked the turn in button. So that's pretty much assignments and classwork and what to do with each of those. We'll look at after you turn it in, what to do next. And notice I did turn that one in over here, so it did turn gray now. So now I only have one more assignment that I have to get finished up here. Okay, so I know I turned some stuff in. Now I want to check back and see. My teacher still said that this assignment is missing. I don't know why. And she didn't put in a grade. So you could always open it back up and look at it. And she wrote a comment here: you did not show me your work. And she marked it back as missing, so that's why. So I can do what I need to do, show it to her, I can resubmit it, or I can go back and do what I need to do before I do that. So that's one feedback that I might need to look for if I think I've turned something in and it's still showing up as missing. The other thing that you could look at is right in here. I know I turned this in, I open it, it does say graded. I can actually even look at what grade that I got on it. I got 8 out of 10 on this assignment. Once you get a grade here, don't resubmit it. Like, you're graded, it's done. You don't need to worry about turning that back in. I do see a lot of kids try and resubmit something after they've already submitted it and I've graded it. So just know that once it's graded, it's graded. You don't have to redo it. Another good spot to look for what you've turned in and if it's done or feedback or not is click back on view your work, and you can look at everything and see, like, you've turned it in. Maybe it's not a graded assignment, so that's why those just say turned in, or maybe your teacher just hasn't graded them yet. Or right here, if you do get grades on them, if your teacher does grade in Google Classroom, you'll see your grades right there. So different spots to look, and it's really important to check for feedback after you turn things in, especially before leading up to a unit. I know I post all of my assignments in my math and science classes as units, and so you can look back and use those to help study what you have the best. Also pointing out here in the work, it does show if there's a comment on something here too. So this is a really important spot to check back. Like, look back, see if your teacher wrote anything. Did she give you feedback? Did she like what you did? Did she want you to try something new? Does she have a pointer, or he have a pointer for you before your upcoming test to make sure you can clear up any misinformation? One other type of question that you might get here is a discussion question. It actually could be multiple choice too, but you might see this type of icon with a question mark in it. And so when you open that type of assignment, you're going to go ahead and view question. And you're going to see a different, you could add a class comment here, again, if your teacher enables it. But you can... you might get a multiple choice question here. You could still add a private comment here, but this is where you're going to type your answer to the question of whatever the teacher's asking. And then when you turn it in, you're not going to be able to make changes. They make sure and give that warning. Unless your teacher allows edits, it is a setting for a teacher, so you might be able to. In this case, I did not allow edits for that, so go ahead and turn it in. And then I'm going to see my answer as well as my classmates' answer. Again, that's a teacher setting, so you may or may not be able to see that. And then obviously, no other students responded to this one here, but you might be able to reply to their classmates' answers too. You're not going to get that option until you submit your own answer, but if you see this type of question, this is where you're going to put your answer, and then depending on the options that your teacher has set up, that's what you would submit there. And again, they can give you feedback and or points for this after you turn it in, just like the rest of your assignments. And that pretty much wraps up what I have for you for Google Classroom and how to use it, and hopefully some best practices that are going to get you to be able to be more efficient when you use Google Classroom.